Well, welcome back. I'm out for steam here, and I'm really sorry, a week late and $1 short. Having made such a fuss about doing a weekly update, as you know, I was very ill after the show. Listen, I could have put a voiceover together, I could have thrown up some cat pictures. Everybody loves cat pictures, but I wanted to give you something a bit more meaningful than that, so I'm afraid you've had to wait for an extra week. But the wait has been worth it. There's about 4 little items that we haven't covered, which I'm going to this week, and the kits are starting to ship through. So if you are just tuning in and you're watching these series of videos for the first time, please leave in the comments what you think and give me a link to what you're doing. I do know a couple of builders are also doing their own videos, so I'd be very interested to see those. So lots to get through. What's in the workshop is probably the biggest bumper episode this week, with no less than 5 items. It seems to be a popular thread, everybody loves it. But before that, here are your comments. As always, thanks for your comments and thanks for your support. So many more subscribers from last week's show. I think that's possibly due to me pushing the fundraising appeal for the unofficial Mamod and Other Steam forum, so please keep it going. I don't like to beg like other YouTubers and say buy me a coffee. I'm just not comfortable with that. I believe that you should be able to watch this totally free of charge, but if you do like and subscribe, it costs you nothing, but it does help the channel grow and it helps us make a little bit of money, so please do so. So G-Ray PP7PX, is that by chance a radio ham handle? Anyway, he makes a small correction. Yet again, I've got my nomenclature wrong. He said I'm calling reversing lever reversing rod. Yeah, I know. Sorry, here's a picture of it. That is definitely the reversing lever. It's also, I believe, called a pole reverser. And the reversing rod is the long thin reach rod. Thanks G-Ray PP7PX. Also, here again, this is take 3. One of our regular contributors, Ian Honeybell. No, the steam pipes take the cylinders, they're not exhaust pipes. So yeah, I've got it, I've finally got it. Here's a picture of the front end, and I've even put on there some captions showing which is the steam pipes and which is the exhaust pipes. I've finally learned, but thanks for the correction. And finally, Jim GD Max says, seems a bit late in the day for hydraulic testing. Surely this should be done earlier. Well, yes, it should. If you go back to the unboxing video, here you can see the boiler certificates. Of course, the boiler was hydraulically tested prior to me installing it, but I do believe that Mike Pavey, just about embraces, wants to perform another hydraulic test before he does a steam test, and then the static run before we take it to the West Huntsville track for its first proper run. And I'll have some dates for that at the end. So here are some more Allen bolt spinners. You've seen these before. These are some of my favourites. But as you can see, they're kind of long, and I do need some shorter ones. Now, this is not a new set, but they are available on Temu and Amazon. And because they're so much shorter, they allow you to get up and under wherever you're working. So this is perfect for when you're trying to get under, say, up into the water tanks, side tanks of the Loco, anything that you need to approach from underneath. And also they've got a handy little hole in there. So if you grab this, you can slide that in there if you had it in the right direction. There you go. And you can use that to give some leverage for the top of the key. And staying on the miniature tool theme, I can't reference this because I got this from my local garage, and you see these offers for $7.95, $8.95, and you get all these separate bits. So you've got all the Allen heads there for your Allen bolts, posi drive, hex keys, flat heads, and you get this tool. So they all slot in to the tool. However, what makes this really invaluable, and it's probably my favorite tool, is, and I'm going to show you this later, you simply can't get into places with a longer head, a longer shaft, but with that you can put this flexi drive on the end there and you can bend it and get it in and it will go anywhere. And I think this is probably, certainly it was under a tenner, it's probably the best value tool I've ever bought. Now we're filming this on the Sunday after Black Friday, and I did happen to look. This paint stand from Temu was on special on Black Friday. It may have finished by now, £3.15. And what they are, you get 10 of these magnetic stands. So I use these for anything that I want to hold painting wise. And of course, if I've got a difficult angle, I can stick them however. And if I'm soldering two pieces of wire together, because these have got rubberized grips on them, they don't get hot and they of course will melt if you apply too much heat, but it's a great way you can hold two bits of wire together and just add solder. For £3.15, to be honest with you, I think that's an absolute bargain. Now they come packed basically in a tray, so it's not exactly big, but it's light. So all I've done is add some tie weights to stop the thing from falling over. Now regular viewers will know that I really do not like super glue. I think it's glue of the devil, but it's a necessary evil. And if you're buying, say, Gorilla Glue, this is a 50g pot of it. The cheapest I think you'll find is Gorilla on Amazon, $5.29. My advice is don't. Go to Screwfix, because for Screwfix you will get this for £4.20 something, I think. But not only that, you also get the activator, because this is part of a kit that people who build conservatories use. When they stick over the laminate spacers and all the decorative fittings, they glue it together with that. So you get your glue and your accelerator. Got to be a bargain. And also from Screwfix, the same goes for No Nonsense Owldite. Again, I think you're looking at around about high eights, nearly low £9 for the 2-pack. And Screwfix do the 250 millilitres for, I think it's around about half that. I'll put the figures on the screen, but to be honest with you, I've used both and I can't tell a difference. Why spend the extra? Now, I should remind you that I am not sponsored by showing you any of those previous 4 items, and I've bought them with my own money. And I'm certainly not sponsored by showing you this. This is a Steam Master condensing smoke unit. I've had it for years. I bought it when I was into radio-controlled model boats, and it is ludicrously expensive, which is probably why the business is no longer trading. Wait for it, £125, but you get your money's worth, you get what you pays for, and it generates condensing steam from water, and it produces a fair head of steam. Now, I was lucky. Yes, I was daft enough to buy one of these for the full amount, but then when I looked at trying to get another one, the company had gone, but there were 2 on eBay, and they were only £25 each, and I won both auctions. So keep your eye out for Steam Master condensed smoke units. If you just want an effect, smoke effects machine, I put this in my my layout high force, my 16mm layout, and it actually is an amazing effect. Great for shows and exhibitions. So it'll be a fairly big build section this week, mainly because we ran out of time and light, and I ran out of talent. But remember that horrible gloopy mess that we had to put to seal the smoke box in? Well, that will be covered by these decorative covers, and this is where one of the tools that I showed you will come in. So these are 3mm bolts, and the standard screw will go in to hold it like so, and I'm only going to use that lightly. You can see that's held in place. However, this is where this flexi tool really comes in handy. Now I can't see round there. I always do opposites attract and all of that, but this is also a 3mm, and if I put the bolt in, I can then use the angle here to get this located. Yeah, it never goes on easy on camera, but hey, oh, there you go. I just felt it bite. As I say, I wouldn't normally do it like this, but that's got that difficult bolt in there. So all you do is repeat for the other two. Now, once the decorative cover for the steam pipes is installed, this will go on top. Now notice there's a little flange that goes uppermost, and you also get two nylon spacers, and it's a devil's own job to get them in because the spacers fall out. So what I do is hold them like that, and then with the merest dab of Luliful, other Loctites are available. I'll just literally put a very small amount on there. That should be enough to hold the spacers in place, but not enough to restrict the fitting because it allows the wiggle room on the two bolts. So give that a minute or two to set off, then we're going to try and bolt it on. So adding that Luliful on there just makes it much easier to get that plate into position, and this whole assembly now hides all this horrible gunk that I had to put in around the smoke box to make it airtight. Now, the other thing we didn't have time to do was to get the Pipeworks fitted to the left-hand side tank, and I tell you, it's not easy. The only way to do it is from inside the cab. So we take the cab roof off. Now, here's one thing I have noticed. I think Silver Crest could have made the depth to about there. So all this bit doesn't exist, because when you take this out, your coal bunker's only that deep. So if it came up to here, you'd have a much higher coal bunker that you could load with coal. That's just my thoughts on the matter. Now, this is not the easiest to film, and I'll show you where the pipework is, but if you haven't got a pair of tweezers, a bent Allen key, you can hook under there, lift that out, and that should release the left-hand door like so. Now there are three pipes. You can't see the two lower ones, so there's one at the top, and they are dreadful to get in, because if you feed a spanner in, even from, that's where you take the door off, even from here, you can only get it onto the nut at about that angle. So if you're twisting it that much, it takes forever, but it can be done. An old engineering tip from Dave the Steam: if you get once the union is attached and that is on the threads, get a screwdriver and then just gently knock it round with that. That'll help tighten it, and then just you can finish off with an open-ended spanner. Oh, I've also seen, I've got one of my favourite cable ties there, so I don't know if we can get to it, but I think that needs to go. And that's the polished cap, and that really is job done. So, wow, what an experience. I'm going to do 5 good points and 5 bad points, and I'll give you some sort of my measure of pleasure of the scores on the doors. And I've got to say a big shout out to James Arthover, I'm not quite sure, but he's commented from across the pond, and he said that our channel popped up and he's hooked, and he said lovely kit, and he likes the honesty. And you know what, that's really important to both Jordan and myself, because we're not some of these high-flying YouTubers that are going to bling things up. We're not being paid vast sums of money to say wonderful things, and if I don't tell it as it is, I've lost my credibility. You won't thank me for it, and Silver Crest can't get any better. So with that in mind, here are 5 good points. In general, the fit and finish has got to score highly. particularly that paintwork and the way that they are transfers, but they look like they're hand lined and they've been applied hot. The level of assembly required, I was petrified taking this on. This is way out of my comfort zone, but if I can do it with, frankly, very few tools, I didn't have to go and buy specialist tools, and it gave me a good option to show off a few of them in what's in the workshop in any case. But very few tools, and it does really screw together. It builds up into an impressive, large and heavy model. 51 kilograms, that's 51 bags of sugar, and there's no way that is a single person lift. I think in the UK health and safety recommend nothing more than 25 kilogram for a one person lift, and if I was fit, which I'm not, I couldn't get near this. Everything's in the kit. I think this is a real bonus. So you even get the running numbers. Obviously, I've got the lined version. The decals are brilliant. Buffers, steps, even firing irons, vac pipes. It is a very comprehensive kit, and you really don't need to buy anything more. And the final really good point for a numpty like me with no engineering experience, some of the gear and no idea, it just fits together. Yes, there are some issues with handed parts, and I've always said if it doesn't fit, turn it round and it'll fit. If you're careful and if the instructions had a little bit more detail, it would make things a whole lot easier. But as far as fit and finish goes, I can't fault it. There are, however, 5 annoying things, and the most annoying thing is the fit of that wretched Smokebox saddle, and it will only go in one way, and you have to take the handrails off to allow it to fit, and the instructions just are a simple one-liner, fit the Smokebox saddle, so that really caused us a certain amount of pain. Also, you're totally on your own with the Pipework. They come in one box. I can't remember which box it is, box 6 or 7. Anyway, it's just like a spaghetti of Pipework, and it does take some figuring out, but they only fit in one way. But be prepared to mess around with them, and don't under any circumstances bend them. You don't need to. They came off as they were, so they will go back on as they were. Another annoying thing, it was a really messy experience having to use that fire weld and that gasket sealer to gloop into the smoke box. Now, I really don't see anything that Silver Crest could do about it. It's just the nature of the beast. If you're going to build a kit, you are going to be faced with that. But it was a fairly tiresome experience, and the stuff goes everywhere. Thank heaven for the exhaust covers that do cover up the majority of the mess. Some of the parts, however, would be easy to fit early on, particularly those 2 lubricator pipes. I don't know why they weren't mentioned until one of the latter kits, because you should be putting those on at the same time as you're putting the frames together, because if you don't, it's really awkward to get underneath, particularly if your Loco is not on a jig. My most annoying and 5th annoying thing is the instructions do assume too much knowledge. And there are flaws, like that Smokebox, for example. Now, the instructions have been written by Mike Pavey, and as far as I'm concerned, he's a super guy. As soon as I've contacted him, he's come back with useful information, but he is a model engineer, and he talks in model engineer speak, and I'm not. Now, if this kit was made for a model engineer, then I guess they've got all that knowledge, but I don't. So I think if Silver Crest spent a little bit more time, maybe making an addendum, that's all they need, and a few more photos, add that to the instructions, then I think this will turn a very good kit into a great kit. So that's it, folks, until we have some Steam updates. The Loco's being collected this coming Wednesday, and should be steam tested, hydraulic tested, prior to the 28th of November, when it should be going to the West Huntsville Model Engineering Society, although that date may be pushed back. In the meantime, we're going to get on to the Stirling kit beam engine. So please, like and subscribe, because if you do, you'll be notified when we've made the next video, so you'll be kept up to date with what's going on. And of course, in so doing, when you like and subscribe, you're helping fund the forums show, and you're helping us pay for our pizzas. All I can say now is it's been an absolute pleasure. The fun bit, I guess, the build bit, is kind of done. But there's a bit more fun to come, because we're now going to see it in action. Until then, toot toot.